Chroniclers of so-called near-death experiences have met with their share of skeptics over the years. The person about to depart this mortal plane has been credited with hallucinations, hypoxia, or triggered memories when reporting their visions of family members and friends coming from the other side to fetch them. However, what if in doing so they are able to access previously unknown information? Sadly, the mortality rate and slow communications at the start of last century provided many opportunities to investigate near-death experiences, where the departing soul is actually able to see waiting for them a person of whose demise they were previously unaware. Sir William Fletcher Barrett was an English physicist and parapsychologist who in 1928 published a book of many collected reports of near-death experiences. In documenting the phenomena, he described multiple instances of a dying person seeing a relative of whose passing they were unaware. Barrett's wife was an obstetric surgeon in the Mothers Hospital in Clapton in London and had received an urgent message to attend a fading patient called Doris. Doris had safely delivered a baby, but was dying due to serious heart failure. In the sombre atmosphere, flanked by her husband and mother, her face suddenly lit up as she claimed to see her deceased father coming to collect her. She described seeing a wonderful brightness and beings, but her strangest statement was, "Oh why, there's Vida." Vida was Doris's sister, who had passed 3 weeks previously, but the woman's family had not informed her of this because of her own serious illness. On the advice of the hospital matron, Doris's mother and husband had delayed their own mourning of Vida and tried to act normally with Doris, even checking her mail in case a friend inadvertently referred to Vida's passing. Doris's mother later described the scene as Doris declared that her father wanted her with him because he was lonely, then suddenly looked puzzled. She said, "He has Vida with him," then turned to her mother, quizzically repeating, "Vida is with him." Barrett was the founder of both British and American societies for psychical research, and so had access to reports from all over the world. Another account came to Barrett from his fellow researcher, American minister and author Dr. Minot Savage. Dr. Savage had documented that in a nearby city lived 2 small girls named Jenny and Edith, one about 8 years of age and the other just a little older. They were school friends and very close. In June 1889, both became ill with diphtheria, and at noon on a Wednesday, Jenny passed away. At this time, the parents of Edith, and also a doctor, were very careful to keep from her the fact that her beloved playmate was gone, fearing the effect of this loss on her own condition. They obviously succeeded to the extent that on Saturday, June the 8th, at noon, just before Edith became unconscious of what was happening around her, she chose 2 of her photographs to be sent to Jenny, and also asked her cares to bid her goodbye. Edith succumbed at 6:30 on the evening of Saturday, June the 8th. She had awoken and wished her family goodbye, while talking of leaving the world, and seeming to have no fear. She appeared to be seeing several of her friends she knew were deceased, as with the other cases, until suddenly, and with every indication of surprise, she turned to her father and cried, "Why, Papa, I will be taking Jenny with me." Then she added, "Why, Papa, you did not tell me that Jenny was here." She immediately stretched out her arms, as if in greeting, and said, "Oh, Jenny, I am so glad you're here." Barrett continued to find numerous case studies, and in 1921 found a report from the Institut Métaphysique in Paris. A man wrote that his uncle, a Monsieur Paul Duroc, had left Paris in 1893 for a trip to America, accompanied by his wife and children. While in Venezuela, Duroc came down with yellow fever, and he expired at Caracas on the 24th of June, 1894. Just before his passing, and while surrounded by the family, he appeared delirious, calling out the names of some friends still in France, and whom he seemed to be greeting. "Well, well, you too, and you as well." Although puzzled by these utterings, nobody thought them important, but they later became significant when the family found on their return to Paris the funeral invitation cards of the very people named by Duroc on his deathbed, and who had passed before him. Testimonies of the man's two cousins confirmed that Duroc had told them of having seen some persons in heaven and of having talked with them at some length. They were much astonished on returning to France to find their funeral cards of those very persons he had spoken to when dying. Duroc's son recalled that a few moments before his death, his father specifically called out the name of a long-lost friend, a Monsieur Echeverry, with whom he had not kept in touch with for a long time, exclaiming, "Ah, you too!" Monsieur Echeverry was one of the funeral cards they found. The nephew confirmed from his cousin's testimonies that the person referred to was deceased at the time of the apparitions. In some cases, those attending the unwell person were themselves unaware of a recent passing of a friend or relative. The sighting either came to onlookers as a shock or was dismissed as caused by delirium. There were many similar incidents to this one, published in the Spectator newspaper, as reported by someone called H. Wedgwood in 1882. He told a personal story from about 40 years before of a young girl he knew who was in the terminal stages of consumption. She had lain for some days oblivious of her surroundings when she suddenly opened her eyes and, staring upwards, said slowly, "Susan, and Jane, and Ellen," as if acknowledging the presence of her three sisters who had previously succumbed to the same disease. Then, after a short pause, she added, "And Edward too," naming a brother they believed to be alive and well in India, as if shocked at seeing him in the group. These were her last words as she passed soon afterwards. Eventually, they arrived in the post letters from India, informing the family of Edward's demise from an accident a week or two prior to the death of his sister. Barrett's research from a century ago still remains some of the most powerful evidence of life after life.